Let's talk about experiments in Google Ads. Why don't you just kick us off here with a little discussion about what they are, where they are, and then before we give a few examples of experiments, we can kind of discuss how we use them.
So experiments are something that I am a big fan of. I know I've said the word experiments a million times, probably on the podcast over the years. And that's because I actively use them. Sometimes we talk about things that I don't actively use, but for experiments, it is absolutely something that I use a lot. And the reason is I mean, the easiest way to explain them is essentially make a guess about something you want to change in Google Ads. And if there's a risk that you might screw up the success of your campaign, it's a risky time for you to make adjustments because of the certain amount of success that you're having, either with click volume, conversion volume, quality of traffic, whatever. You make a guess, and if there's risk, you could run an experiment. And essentially, it works like this. You go to Google Ads, you log in, of course, and click on the experiments tab, and you can set one up. You click the plus button there on the experiments tab, and you can create one. You can create a display experiment or a search experiment. And what we're going to talk about today is all the options in what everybody cares about, display. We're not really, sorry, just kidding. We're going to talk about search. We're going to talk about what matters in search. We're going to talk about all the different ways that we think you should be using an experiment. And it's essentially take your original, you duplicate it, and then they run concurrently. Okay, so half the budget can go to one and half the budget can go to the other. This is something that does not exist anywhere else in Google Ads. You cannot just create a second campaign and get the same results. Experiments are exclusive for the ability to run concurrently and split the budget. If you run a separate campaign that you duplicated, you're going to run into cannibalization issues. It will not be an even 50-50 split. Google has to pick between the two. That's not an experiment. This is the only way to do it without a cannibalization, without a competition issue between the two, essentially. And Jason,
And you can set whatever percentage you want, which is one of my favorite things about it. If you're not like, for example, today I just set up a max conversions with a value set experiment versus my manual bids. And I don't really want to hand over the keys to like a super large extent or even half because the campaign is working out pretty good. So what I did is I did like 20% of the time run this experiment with the budget and the other 80% time run it on the original, which is manual bid. So that's one of my favorite things about it, Chris. When we think about like Google Ads, I think search terms is the thing I'm absolutely most positive on in terms of like the way it's helpful and then just good feelings about it. But close behind that is experiments. I don't think it gets any better than this. It's so awesome to be able to isolate one change and allocate however much budget you want to allocate to it and then see the results. I love it.
Yeah, it is. I mean, for an account that is brand new, it's not something that I use experiments for. So I wouldn't really say that an experiment is something important for a campaign that I've been running for a month, or a brand new account that I just launched, it's been running for a month or maybe two. But when we get into month 6, 7, year 2, 3, 4, 5, and I have a certain baseline of success that I like to have, and I have some ideas about what I want to do, absolutely, I would say experiments are critically important. Because the number one thing you want to do in Google Ads once you have a minimum of success is to maintain that success and move up. I can't tell you how many times I see people that say, hey, I heard you talking on the podcast about, max conversion value. So I went ahead and went from manual to max conversion value. Cold turkey, just changed it. And now I'm not getting any clicks. Or I changed them to target ROAS, and now, I'm not getting any clicks, or target cost per conversion. I'm not getting any clicks. Yeah, because you never know with these bidding changes how much it can really change things. And that's I think that's one of the first things we want to talk about here is the importance of using conversions or experiments for bidding strategies.
Yeah. And then just like close out the first section here in terms of how important they are, it's one of those things where it's like, well, you can make an argument they're not important at all if your campaign is going well. But you can also make an argument like they're one of the most important things, and you can't really run a campaign without it because you should always be testing something. So I think one risk is like you don't want to mess with a good campaign and take it too far. Like there's only so many things you can test, but it definitely is something that should be part of like a campaign strategy in the first 6 months to the first year,
Mm.
testing out some of the things we'll talk about. So